Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to today's video. And I want to first off say I hope everyone's having a great holiday weekend. So we have gotten some pretty juicy news concerning the Canon R5 Mark II. We have a fairly large list of rumors that was just put up over on Canon Rumors if you want to check that out, with a bunch of rumored specs for the Canon R5 Mark II. Now, I want to first say that these are just rumors. Now, there was a time where CR2 rumors were very close to what the actual truth was going to be, but after the situation with the R6, we have found that that's not always the case. So take anything you see on this rumor list with a grain of salt. Now, the first thing is the timing of this camera. Rumor has it that we are going to get either a release or an announcement by possibly Q2 of 2023, which would make sense because that's a pretty decent time frame between the Canon R6 Mark II and the Canon R5 Mark II. When these two cameras were first announced, there was supposed to be a larger gap between them, but due to the COVID situation, they ended up getting announced and released at the same time roughly. We know that in the first quarter of every year, there's always a bunch of conferences where different announcements end up taking place in regards to the camera industry. So chances are good that's possibly going to be where we hear about this camera first. Now, getting into the rumored spec list, we're seeing that this is possibly going to be a 61 megapixel camera with a BSI sensor. Now, what we don't know is if that's going to be a standard BSI sensor or a stacked BSI sensor. We will have to wait further down the road to get confirmation on that. We also see the dual Digic X processor. Now, this one seems odd to me because they kept the Canon R6 Mark II price point right around where the R6 Mark I was. You would think that the R5 Mark II might be in a similar circumstance. Adding two processors to the camera, I find that harder to imagine that they would be able to do that from a cost perspective. So I personally am not really sure on that one. Next, we're gonna have the 30 FPS electronic shutter and the 12 FPS mechanical shutter. We're going to have the same 8-stop IBIS as we do currently on the standard R5. There's a rumored newer higher resolution shooting mode very similar to the pixel shift technology that the Sony cameras and Fujifilm cameras are currently incorporating into their units. This one, if it ends up being true, will be interesting to see how it ends up working out on the Canon platform. They've got a listing for a 2x, 4x, 8x digital teleconverter. If the news about the 61 megapixel full frame sensor is actually confirmed, this would make a lot of sense as we have a lot of sensor and a very high resolution sensor in order to do digital crops without really hurting your pictures or video too much. We're looking at the same dual focus CMOS autofocus that's currently found on the R3 and the R6 Mark II, which would be a great addition to the R5, and something that we're probably going to see a lot of in all of the newer bodies moving forward. In terms of video, we're gonna have 8K 60 frames per second internal recording. 8K RAW recording is still yet to be confirmed. Internal 4K, 30p, 60p, and 120p, all achieved by oversampling. We're seeing some potential super slow motion with full HD, 240p recording, the addition of focus breathing correction for video recording, which would be absolutely awesome, and is another feature we see being carried over from the R6 Mark II. They're claiming to have a new overheat protection, very similar to the R6 Mark II, which they're saying will get you at least 40 minutes with 8K video recording and over 60 minutes using 4K. Now, with all the issues we had with overheating on the Canon R5, this is probably one of the features people would be looking forward to the most. They had a lot of practice with the R3, the R5C, and the R6 Mark II to try to tune in the overheating issues and to at least make them better to where you're getting more recording time, or you're going to be in a situation where the overheating isn't really going to affect your standard workflow. Now, the next thing is something that a lot of us R5 users had been asking for from the get-go, and that's going to be the dual CF Express cards. I'm at the point where I have quite a few CF Express Type B cards, as well as most other Canon R5 users, and to be able to now put both of them into a camera would be an absolutely awesome thing, because then we could take advantage of some of those higher speeds on both cards instead of having to pick and choose which card we're using for which project we're currently working on. Now, there's quite possibly going to be a standard HDMI port, which is another thing that Sony has been doing for years, which we over here on the Canon side have been begging for. because the little small HDMI, mini HDMI, micro HDMI that we currently have is an extremely outdated technology, and a full-size HDMI would make everything in terms of running to external monitors just so much easier than trying to find that little cable. Now we're seeing that we're also possibly gonna have dual USB Type-C slots. Now, the one reason I can think of that they would want to add dual USB Type-C slots is if we're going to get the addition to be able to use external hard drives, USB-C hard drives. I'm assuming one of them is going to be for constant power, and the second one would be for going out to those external solid-state drives like you can already do on things like Blackmagic and some of the other brands. And this would be an absolute game changer for anyone who's recording in larger RAW formats, because those files tend to be so big. Being able to put a 2 terabyte or 4 terabyte external USB-C drive into your camera to just offload all of that to while you're recording would be absolutely huge when you are working on larger cinema type projects. Now we're also seeing a much larger update to the electronic viewfinder, up to 9.44 million dot. I'm sure this is going to look great in the electronic viewfinder. I don't really have an issue with the viewfinder we currently have. This is probably going to be a feature that's going to benefit photographers more than anything else. They're claiming that there's going to be a possible new vari-angle LCD screen that's claiming that's going to help video shooting much easier. What I'm thinking this is going to be similar to is the most recent Sony camera that just got put out, where the camera can either tilt completely up or down, or you can tilt it out and flip it away from your camera. So you're getting more points of articulation than what you have on a standard flip out and rotating screen, but you're not going to be limited to what you would have if you only had a standard flip up or flip down screen. Now, if we're at a point where even 90% of the things on this list end up being true, it looks like the R5 Mark II could shape up to be a significant upgrade to the standard R5. Now, I personally am hoping that most of this ends up being accurate, or if it isn't accurate, isn't too far off the mark. It would be nice to end up finding out down the road that that BSI sensor is a BSI stacked sensor, as that would be a significant upgrade for sports and high motion shooters compared to the standard R5. All right, guys, let me know down in the comments below what on this list stands out to you the most, and what are you the most excited about on this list in terms of potential changes with the R5 Mark II? Also, is there something that's not on this list that you think should have been or you were expecting to be? Now, if you found this video helpful, please hit that like button, as it helps the channel and it helps the video greatly. If you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing to the channel and even hitting that bell notification. That way you get alerts anytime I put out a new video just like this one. Now, with that being said, until next time.